How's it going, everyone? I'm JGeks, and in this video I'm going to go over the average prices of all the planetary materials in the game in the high-sec trading hubs and EVE Echoes, as well as which planetary materials are the best to mine, breaking it down ISK per hour so you can be making the most money with your time in EVE Echoes. The graphs shown in this video cover the periods of September 9th to September 16th. The yellow value is the current 3-day average price, while the red and green numbers are the changes in 3-day averages over the past week. Lustering alloy is used for all Tier 4 to Tier 6 ships and has stabilized over the past week around 118 ISK. Precious alloys are averaging at 162 ISK and have become a hot commodity due to being used in crafting all Tier 7 ships, which include battle cruisers. It's also used in crafting Venture 3s, which all miners above Tier 6 should be using if they can afford it. Gleaming alloys are another highly sought after alloy, and have jumped up in price to match precious alloys at 162 ISK. This is because it's a component for Minmatar and Caldari ships. The Coracle is a Caldari ship, and it's easily the most used ship in PvE content currently, so expect gleaming alloys to stay in demand as long as the Coracles and missiles stay the most popular ships and weapons to use for PvE content. Condensed alloys are used in crafting Ventures, but they don't see as much use as the other three alloys. Because of this, it's the cheapest alloy, coming in at an average of 103 ISK. The average ISK per hour per mining array charts shown in this video are all based off of perfect resources and based to 100% output. That means if you're mining from a planet in 0.0 nullsec, you'd be doubling these values, as those nullsec planets benefit from a 200% output bonus. Also, if you're mining from a rich or medium source rather than a perfect, these values will be slightly lower than listed. Looking at the alloys in this ISK per hour per mining array chart, we can see that precious and gleaming alloys are the two alloys you would want to be using your planetary arrays on currently, and are only beat in ISK per hour by 3 other materials listed later on in this video. Now we'll look at the compounds. Sheen compound is used for all Amarr and Galenti ships and has seen a decline in price over the past week, going down 16 ISK in value. Motley compound has seen a huge increase in price over the weekend and now averages at 187 ISK each. Motley compounds are used in crafting every T4 to T5 ship in the game. With these tiers of ships being constantly used in PvP fleet battles, corporations have been setting up competing buy orders trying to build up their stocks to craft these throwaway ships in bulk for many types of PvP content, which has led to the recent price increase. Fiber composites have been the cheapest compound in price for over 2 weeks now, and is averaging at 92 ISK each. These composites are used on all T6 and above frigates, as well as Venture 3s. The supply currently outweighs the demand for this type of material, which is keeping the average price lower than the rest of the compounds on this list. Lucent compounds are used on all Tier 6 and above destroyers, and is currently averaging at 135 ISK. Lucent compounds have been fluctuating a lot over the past 2 weeks, from as high as 205 ISK to as low as 70 ISK. So you should keep a close eye on the prices of these compounds if you're crafting destroyers. Opulent compounds are used in crafting all Tier 6 and above cruisers, as well as T6 and above industrial ships. This compound will be in high demand when Tier 7 unlocks, with everyone looking to try out the new Retriever, as well as Tier 7 cruisers. So expect opulent compounds to go up in demand and in price as a result. Glossy compounds are averaging at 126 ISK, and is a requirement for all battlecruiser blueprints, so these should see an increase in price as soon as Tier 7 unlocks. Crystal and dark compounds aren't used in ship crafting until Tier 8, so expect these compounds to stay undervalued until we reach closer to Tier 8. However, they are currently used in crafting cloaking and covert ops modules, so that's why they are still holding some value in price. Looking at the ISK per hour per mining array chart for compounds, we can see that Motley compound's sharp price increase over the weekend has them in a commanding lead for best planetary compound to be mining for at 3200 ISK per hour. Opulent compound is in second at 2400 ISK per hour. Crystal and fiber compound should currently be avoided while mining planets, or at least stocked up until their prices and demand increase from what they're currently at. Now for the metals. Noble metals have remained around 100 ISK each for over 2 weeks now. These metals are used for all Minmatar and Caldari ships. Reactive metals are used in all T6 and above ships and were once at 500 ISK a few weeks ago, but they have been climbing back up in price ever since and are now sitting at 310 ISK each. Toxic metals dipped in price as well, but have seen a recent surge and are now sitting at 363 ISK each. Toxic metals are mainly used in industrial ships as well as faction frigates. Base metals have seen the greatest change over the weekend. Previously, these metals were stuck around 100 ISK like the noble metals, but have since doubled in price over the weekend. Base metals are used for all Tier 4 and Tier 5 ships, just like the Motley compounds, and both of these have seemed to surge in price over the weekend, which I have been assuming is due to competing buy orders from large corporation and industrialists trying to focus on mass producing these lower tier ships for PvP, as I've noticed a spike in buy order prices since the past weekend. Make sure to keep an eye on base metal prices, as this jump could just be temporary due to the demand over the weekend, or they could remain around this price from here on out. We'll just have to wait and see. Heavy metals are used for all Amarr and Galenti ships and have remained between 130 and 155 ISK for the past week. Looking at the ISK per hour chart, we see for the metals that heavy metals are currently the best ones to be mining for with your planetary arrays. Even though noble metals and heavy metals are selling for less than the others, they're mined at a greater rate than the reactive, toxic, and base metals, which all suffer from a base mining rate that's 2/3 slower than the noble and heavy metals. All of the metals can be mined for a decent return, however base metals should still be avoided in mining until their price per unit rises. Until then, it's better just to buy the base metals that you need in your crafting rather than mining them for yourself. On this chart, we're looking at the planetary materials that can be used as fuels for player-constructed buildings. We can see that all these prices except for heavy water have seen a significant increase over the weekend. This is due to corporations eyeing to make their own capsuleer outposts in nullsec and making sure they have enough fuels to keep them operational. The top right number for each fuel shows the gigajoule output, which is a unit for energy. This value can be found in the tooltips for each of these materials in-game. The bottom left number in gray shows the amount of gigajoules per ISK, which is useful to know which fuel gives you the most energy per ISK. This is simply found by dividing the tooltip energy value by the ISK per unit value. The first capsuleer outpost has been built over the weekend as well, so expect these prices and demand for these fuels to continue to rise as more and more corporations prepare to make their own outposts in nullsec. Currently, all of these fuels are about equal in their returns per mining array, with variations of only a few hundred ISK. You should notice that all of these outputs are considerably lower than all of the alloys, compounds, and metals we went over, so these should be avoided in your planetary mining unless you're stocking up to sell later when they become more valuable, mining them for your corporation's outpost, or to sell them out in nullsec stations where they have a bit more value. For the average player that's mining planetary materials to sell for a quick profit, these fuels should be avoided until their prices go up, or when more corporations have fuel needs that need to be met. This early on in the game, with only a handful of outposts going up, these fuels are just not worth it to be mining for currently, as there are much better options. The last category for planetary materials are the materials needed for structures. All of these materials outside of noble gases, industrial fibers, and construction blocks have seen an incredible boost in their value over the weekend. These materials, just like the fuels, are being boosted in price due to the demands needed for constructing player-owned outposts in nullsec. Silicate glass and supertensile plastic saw the largest jump in price over the weekend for the structural materials, both doubling in price. As you can see by the graphs for these materials, their values have been fluctuating a lot over the past week. So take these values as estimates, as they tend to be bought out in bulk, and with only a limited amount of supply, this can cause the values to spike faster than other categories of planetary materials we've gone over. Looking at the ISK per hour chart for structural planetary materials, we see that only supertensile plastic, coolant, and silicate glass are competitive with the alloys, compounds, and metals. And with supertensile plastic and silicate glass doubling in price over the weekend, they are now the best planetary materials to be mining for currently. Just note that the market for these materials has much less volume, so these prices tend to be much more volatile and vary in price on a day-to-day basis. So take these values of ISK per hour for structural materials as a rough estimate, as price averages are not fully established yet, as they are for other categories that we went over in this video. Thanks for watching my video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to receive notifications when I make updates to these series as well as new videos. If you have any questions, you can find me on twitch.tv/JGeks or just leave a message in the comment and I'll get back to you. Thanks. Whoa, we got somebody's stuff.